중앙시설과 특히나 암흑성소를 올려주는 플레이가 또 굉장히 괜찮다고 생각이 듭니다.
네, 이거 제법 큰 성과 거둘 수 있습니다.
자, 광전사 추가 소환까지 좋고요.
네.
자, 이것저것 난리가 났는데요?
미리 지어놓은 포텐트가 없기 때문에
예.
이거 막으려면 지금 최소한 감시공자 서너 개가 필요합니다.
그래서 아직 네 타락기의 숫자가 부족하고요.
일단 여기까지 살짝 빠져주고.
네, 이럴 때는 관측선을 끊어줘야죠.
관측선 그렇죠.
네, 타락기로 관측선을 좀 타야 되는데.
전멸로 끝났죠. 위에 본체 위에 전멸로.
네, 관측선을 놓쳤습니다. 게다가 암흑기사가 이미 지금 저그의 여기저기를 다 박살을 내고 있어가지고.
네.
아,
최지. 자, 뭔가 다 보고 나왔어요. 감소리죠.
그쵸, 상대의 저런 체제를 다 확인하고 나서 이거 거신 소수 믿고 이제 멀티하러 나오면 이거 한번 밀어볼 수 있겠는데?
그렇죠.
분명 이런 생각을 할 수 있고.
그렇죠, 그렇죠.
네, 근데 이렇게까지 입을 크게 벌리고 있으면 포커스가 답답할 수밖에 없습니다.
뭐라는 거예요?
업그레이드 만큼 네, 영리한 플레이 해주고 있습니다.
네,
끊어줬습니다.
프로토스도 지금 강현아 선수가 앞마당에 일정 경력을 소화해야 됩니다.
네. 저 위쪽으로 올라갔다 병이 뚫었나요?
거신 순식간에 녹았어요.
네, 소방패를 너무 늦게 켰습니다.
그렇습니다. 네.
지금 병력이 거신이 나와있지는 않거든요.
그렇죠.
지금.
게다가 고볼기도 지금 업그레이드가 안 되는 등이라서 업살된 인간 상대로 좀 약할 수밖에 없습니다.
강해요,
거신이 밀려요. 저글링 3개가 때려가지고 뒤로 밀리고 있습니다.
아, 그렇죠.
저글링이
세 개.
우왕 찍구나. 야, 지지.
이거 가겠다는 거네요.
네, 준비하네요.
오관문. 오.
타이밍 잡았습니다. 여기도 바로 올렸죠.
네, 지금까지 이 지역을 정찰하지 않았다는
예.
것은 그래, 너 지금 여기에 빠져있는 탐사정 모르는 거지라고 확신하고 있는 겁니다. 이거.
그렇죠. 박경
이거 시야에 나오지
자,
않습니다. 못 봤어요.
들어와요.
입구에 역장 한 번이면 경기 끝납니다.
그렇죠.
미리 광전사를 좀 보여줬던 판단은 아쉽긴 합니다만, 네, 그래도 아직까지 방패나 자극자 업그레이드가 안 돼 있는 병력들이기
그렇죠.
때문에 돌파할 수 있습니다.
황규석 힘이 많이 꺾였는데요.
네, 게다가 병영도 2개뿐이고
네.
태클로 올라갈 생각을 가지고 있었던 황규정 선수이기 때문에
그렇죠.
야, 이건 거의 경기 끝났는데요.
취재.
자, 2대2 싸움.
신경전.
자, 이승현 선수가 잘 싸웠죠, 지금.
계속 공격적으로 몰아치 준비하고 있어요.
자, 또 하나 잡아주고요. 체력 없는 거.
자, 바로 이후에 저글링 추가 생산. 자, 저글링으로 들어갔는데요.
자, 아슬아슬한데, 완성되나요?
그냥.
자,
자, 맹독충이 지금 완성돼서 특정 선수가 지금 수비가 되고 있어요.
네, 맹독충이 나오는 타이밍이 진짜 기가 막혔습니다.
들어왔을 때 만들어졌어요.
자,
잘 맞고 있고요, 수비.
네. 오, 좋아요.
오,
지금 하나까지.
네, 저걸
시동
내려오는
걸어요.
거 봤단 말이죠. 그렇다면 맹독충을 조금 더 만들 필요가 있습니다.
준비하겠습니다,
자원
이거.
되는 대로 입구 쪽에 진화약으로 그냥 틀어맞고
네.
네, 맹독충을 최대한
오.
많이 뽑아야 됩니다.
맹독충끼리 잘 이제.
야!
자, 오늘 저도 잡아먹었어요.
네, 이승현 선수 실수.
흔들리나요?
자, 아직 맹독충 많이 남아있어요. 박현선 선수.
예, 탁현승 오늘 수비 진짜 좋습니다. 여왕도 잡힙니다. 여왕도 잡혀요. 여왕도 잡힙니다.
네.
자, 지금 진규 내려도 많이 없거든요.
몇방 없어요, 지금.
네, 지금 이제 다 썼고요.
네, 강현승은 지금 빈 깡통이죠.
제재.
네, 지금 이제 프로토스가 이제 탐사정을 쉬고 관문 6개나 올리고 있기 때문에 지금 이것은 거의 높은 확률로 디지타이밍 머신을
네.
가겠다는 의도를 가지고 있고.
가수기 보고 분면차 봤죠. 이러면 어리는 압니다.
지금 눈치챘을 겁니다.
네, 그렇죠. 이원표 선수가 지금 슬금슬금 시간 회복과 역장을 잘 빼냈습니다.
네, 결국 시간 회복은 전부 다 뺐고요.
예, 타락기를 보유할 수 없는 상황이기 때문에 이거는 서성민 선수가
자, 이제 역장 없어요.
역장에 여유만
네.
있으면 무조건 이기는 경기입니다.
자, 지금 에너지원이 많이 떨어져 있죠. 파수기는. 네, 올라가서 이면서 잡아먹으면 되는데요. 불면차 두기.
아, 히드라가 조금 부족해 보이는데요.
네, 여기서 데미지 딜링을 좀 해줘야 되거든요.
자, 근데
불면차 잡아냈습니다. 거친.
야, 적의 병력이 녹아내리고 있습니다.
거친이 건재하기 때문에 불면차가 맺힌 역할 제대로 해줬어요.
야, 일벌레를 좀 많이 찍었나요? 이원표 선수 이러면
네.
못 막습니다.
위에서 찍어 누르면 병력 다 잡아먹었어요.
자, 바퀴 녹아내리고요.
제재.
2013 GSTL Season 1. NS Hosa. Axiom-Acer. MVP. FX Open. LGIM. AZUBU. Prime. Startail.
Back to the GSTL. We just had Scarlet with a very excellent execution on her 10-pool into Baneling. Took the first win, and it's easy.
1-0 lead therefore for Axiom-Acer. Now Scarling heading into a Terran versus Zerg, facing Ganji as the second player for Team AZUBU. So far everything going well for Axiom-Acer and the Canadian starting player.
Yep. Ryung having a little chat here. Ryung definitely somebody we could see as the closer for Axiom-Acer if it comes to that. And, you know, we've seen him in the past come out last. Ryung is such a strong player.
Yeah, he definitely is. He's like the backbone of the team these days, I feel. And a player that they can always count on. It looks like Scarlet has been able to deal with her anxiety issues or with the nervousness that she had in game number 1. That's one of those things that just always happens. In game 1, most of the players are a little bit nervous about playing, and then as soon as you win the first game, you gain that momentum. That's something that has been stated by several players in the past after winning their first game. And it's going to be interesting to see how Scarlet deals with their opponent now on Icarus of all maps.
Yeah, Icarus is a cool map choice by Ganji. I like it because it forces basically aggressive Zerg play early on, and that's predictable, so it's easy to respond to that.
I would not be surprised to see a Roach attack here, maybe even once again a bailing strategy on 2 bases. That's something that Scarlet has shown in the past, and very strong, especially on smaller maps. And Icarus is one of those maps. So let's see how Ganji is actually playing this. Will we see a siege tank to defend against it? Is he going for aggressive style himself, trying to put the pressure on her? That's something that we're going to see in just a few seconds here in the second game of the GSTL Season 1 2013 in our match between Axiom-Acer and AZUBU, brought to you by Colin Wolf, of course. Starting to the top left, the Terran player, second player for Team AZUBU.
AZUBU Ganji.
Ganji, strong player for his team, has to deal with the Canadian Zerg playing for Axiom-Acer. Starting to the bottom right, 19 years old it is.
Acer Scarlet.
Ganji, by the way, 25 years old,
yeah.
So a 6-year difference between the two of them.
Yep, he's one of the older players for sure. You know, this is interesting to me because picking a map like Icarus usually is a choice against a Zerg player who the Terran feels might beat them in a macro game, so they force the map out. But what this says to me, I don't think Ganji's actually scared of playing Scarlet in a macro game, but I think that they have plans to use Zerg players later, and they don't want Icarus to be used against them if it comes to that, if they send another Zerg player out later.
For me, it's just interesting to see how Scarlet is going to react to the map because of the reasons that we mentioned earlier. If you take a third base, it's a bit hard to defend, being a Zerg. I feel as a Terran, you always have the option going into a planetary, which you of course try to avoid. Most Terran players are going into 3 orbitals before adding a planetary. But on a map like Icarus, I feel that it's one of those maps where you are tempted to get the planetary a little bit earlier just to be on the safe side.
Yeah. That's a good point. You know, if it comes to that third base, because it is really far away for both players, so it makes a Zerg player really struggle to defend against drops, but it also makes a Terran a little bit... It's tougher to hold off those big Baneling attacks, you know, when the Spire comes out and the Baneling count starts to get a little bit higher with speed.
I'm curious to just see what Ganji is going to do. He has to be aware that on a map like this, you would expect the Zerg player to be aggressive. Scarlet not scouting the gas here with the Overlord, by the way. Something that she could not see. And what is she going to play? I mean, in this scenario, as I mentioned earlier, it's just, it tempts you to go for aggression, either going into the Banelings or just adding the Roaches here. Roach Baneling, of course, always an option if you want to mix things up. So, what are we going to see from the two of them?
Yeah, I just want to point out, by the way, this is a really cool stat. Ganji is actually the top contributor as far as points goes for his team. He has 36.4% of the points. That goes to show they use him a lot and they rely on him a lot. You know, even Symbol being at second place there.
Orbital number 1 is now, and the second one is now being upgraded. You always want to call down those mules as fast as possible. And, of course, saturate the mineral patches before you go for the blue ones, the gold ones, that is.
Yeah.
That's something that Scarlet did at the bottom right, Gunji to the top left. And now we have the double Queen for Scarlet, and we have the gas being mined.
Yeah, notice that, of course, she takes the rich geyser at the back instead of taking the one in the front.
Yeah.
And that's something that Ganji does not do with his gas because he wanted to have his gas up a little bit faster. But his second gas will definitely be taken at the back.
Really fast lair for Scarlet. A 450 lair tech, even a 440 for more than 450. That is like the fastest lair that you can possibly get in this game.
Yeah, I'm feeling like we could see a Nidus with just speedlings.
We could see Nidus. Even Nidus Roach is a strategy that was used in maps like Atlantis Spaceship earlier, also in Atiga Shipyard, something that we've seen several times.
She has 2 Overlords in position, so
yeah.
I mean, this is definitely looking likely.
And she's heading into 2 additional extractors now, going for speed for the Lings. We could definitely see a Nidus play here. Could, of course, also just being going for a very fast Mutalisk timing, but I doubt that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, just with the Overlords, it looks so suspicious, you know?
It's also no Roach Moran. That's one of the things that we have to keep in mind here. If she was trying to go for Roach timing, we would have seen the Roach one earlier, so that she could have started with speed as soon as Lair is done.
Yeah, and still no Nidus. I think she wants to add it.
Spire.
Oh, Spire. This is really not what I expected to see.
That's like the fastest Spire that she could possibly get. Usually you hit with the Spire aggression at roughly 11 minutes. That's the time when you arrive with your Mutalisk at your opponent's base. But that timing is going to be so much faster for her.
Yeah, and Ganji's playing really greedy right now. Not only did he go into the 3rd command center, but he's going into double eBay as well. And he's making a siege tank because he thinks that's going to be safe.
Yeah.
But of course, against Mutalisk, that's not going to be helpful at all.
It's smart though, going for the siege tank. I pointed this out earlier. What is he going to do given that he expects aggression? And the siege tank, just having it there, helps him so much against Banelings and against Roaches. Doesn't deal too well with Mutalisks, of course, but that's something that he has to either see with the scan or with the Hellions running into the main base. He did decide not to go Reaper here, and that limits his scouting a bit. He needs to resort to the Orbital if he wants to get a glimpse at the main base.
You notice also he checked right now with the Marine for Nidus, just to be careful about that, and seeing no Nidus is obviously very happy about what he's seen. And Scarlet is not going to play this as an all-in, it's just a very aggressive timing. Goes for a 3rd base right now, just putting the pressure on Ganji so Ganji cannot attack her 3rd, and it looks like, though, this Hellion will see it, which is really, really important. Though he also sees a ton of Zerglings, which is a little bit strange, you know, normally if you're playing a normal Zerg.
But the Hellion gets into the base, that's something that she wants to avoid. But he goes into the main, so now there is nothing that he can spot. Not even the Lair tech, only sees the 3rd base, doesn't know about Lair, doesn't know about the Spire. And those Mutalisks, they will hit hard if Ganji doesn't start to build missile turrets.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a bunker at the front either. I think he's going to probably face Mutas in the main, and then as soon as that happens, the Baneling's going to hit the front.
Yeah, but as I said, he expects the Mutalisks, if there are any, to come out a little bit later. So this is not the time where you throw down your missile turrets, especially when there are Zerglings knocking at your front door and you don't know exactly what you expect. So the Mutalisks are going to do damage in the main base, and then probably head over to the natural to snipe a few additional SCVs. And in the meantime, Scarlet is just going to drone up and get her 3rd base going.
And very critical here, Stem is not ready. Of course, it's very delayed by the fact that he went for a faster command center in the E-base. Here come the first Mutas. This is going to be a bit of a shock for Ganji right now.
Delaying those production structures. The Marina heading into the main base. Scarlet has to be careful. A little bit of a missed micro there for a second, but sniping SCVs.
Yeah, Ganji reacting well here, starts turrets not only at his mineral lines, but in the at the front, at the ramp, and this is looking pretty bad for him. He's losing a lot of SCVs, and the Lings, though, haven't started Banelings.
Yeah, a lot of pressure here by Scarlet. She can actually snipe now the siege tank.
Yeah, and that's exactly what she does. Could get that bunker, which is a little bit strangely placed. He also wants to have some sort of setup where he can go between his main base and the 3rd.
Ganji's timing are completely thrown off. He doesn't even restart to build his starport. A big problem for him now. That will delay all of his medevacs, and he doesn't even realize that the SCV has been sniped. He is so occupied with taking care of the Mutalisk that he didn't see it.
Yeah.
Now he starts it.
12 workers killed in total, and just look at the supply. He's down 40, and this is not because of poor macro. It's just because his production facilities were delayed so much. Look at his minerals. They're so high. He can't spend them without those barracks being completed, without the starport being completed.
He's losing supply depots. He doesn't have medivacs. Here come the banelings and the zerglings. There is not a lot to defend. The siege tech is even not sieged up. What is he doing? He doesn't see it.
He's totally blindsided here.
Oh, the banelings doing the damage, going to the main base. The siege tank being sniped, and Scarlet is going to take her second win. The production facilities being camped by the Zerg units. Mutalisks, banelings, and zerglings everywhere.
This is domination here. Scarlet just really getting inside Ganji's head, and she will take 2 wins in a row here. The turret, yeah, it's repaired here, but
she's not going to win it right now, but she took down so many harvesters, and she's already prepared for the next blow to her opponent. The Zerglings at the natural did so much damage. That's something that Ganji didn't see because he was occupied with his main base defense. He was trying to keep those Mutalisks away, and the entire time the Zerglings at the natural took down one unit after another.
Yeah, and now he's starting to lose hit points on his command center. Obviously, he will be able to save it, but he's just being, his multitasking to be so tasked here, and now the second wave comes in, as you're mentioning before, and this may actually just end the game.
Yeah, there are the Marines trying to save it. The Mutalisks are sniping the siege tank once again. Only 2 of them left, but the Marines, they are just not strong enough at this point, even with the upgrade advantage.
This time, Baneling speed is ready as well. He's going to lose all of his SCVs here.
So much mining time already lost that he needs.
He's picking his SCVs into the medevacs, which is really well done.
Yeah, that's a really smart move. That is well done, but he doesn't have anything mining at the natural. He only has a few in the main base. Good trades here against the Banelings, but it's just too little too late.
The Banelings are trying to figure out what to hit, you know, at this point. He's going to want to drop SCVs one at a time, but it's like, all right.
And Scarlet, she's going into +1 attack upgrade for the Mutalisks, saturating the third base. A few Mutalisks still harassing the natural, taking down mules as we speak. And Scarlet is now just playing this very safe. I mean, she's in a position where she basically cannot lose the game anymore, and she doesn't want to make any mistakes. One of the mistakes might be just throwing wave after wave at the opponent, and if Ganji is able to hold, then she might fall behind. But she's playing this smart, going into double upgrades, going into a macro hedge, adding the infestation pit, just playing this very, very cautious. Even taking a 4th base.
Yeah, and a really great 4th base at that. Has the Ling ready to deny a 3rd command center. Also the forces at the front here just waiting. Obviously the upgrades are better for Ganji right now. He's at 1-1. But that's going to change very soon. He can't afford any more upgrades. Look at his minerals. He's pulled all out of gas because he has 532 gas that he can't even spend.
This is Scarlet's game to lose. This is a game that Ganji cannot really win anymore, if not for a major mistake by Scarlet. But he's putting in a lot of effort. I mean, you have to really say that this guy is trying his best. But the problem really is his economy. Even with the triple command center and the mules that he has, he now can't scan without losing too much of his economy. He has to wait until he can establish himself a 3rd base, whereas Scarlet already has a 4th being built. And these attacks that he's trying to execute, they can do some damage, especially with such a good marine micro positioning. But the medivacs just won't survive that long.
Yeah, exactly. Really nicely done here. You know, he knows what cards he has left in his hand, which is his superior upgrades, the fact that he has this Bioforce, but he's now kind of lost those cards. They're now in the graveyard.
He's still at half the supply. Scarlet had a better bank that she's now using, going into Hive, going for Zerglings. The +1/+1 is nearly completed, and we will most likely see +2/+2, which will soon enough give her an upgrade lead over her opponent. And also, of course, the upgrades here for the Infestors.
Yeah, I mean, going
70
to
supply
Hive,
ahead.
At this point in time, Ganji is getting better upgrades for, you know, the time being, but here's the 2-2 now started for Scarlet, as you can see on the production tab, harassing with the mutas, killing more mules with the bounce damage, and then, you know, those glaive worms are just really continuing to do a number on Ganji's economy.
Here comes the main force. It's a gap, and the Zerglings and Banelings just roll into the main base. More are going to follow soon. Hive is nearly done. The Zerglings running in, and I think this time even Ganji will have to admit that this is not going to be his day.
Yeah, I mean, he can lift up into those medevacs, but with the mutas here, he can't do it for long, and every single SCV is dying.
Another medivac is now gone. He has to lift his natural. This is just not a good day to be Ganji.
Yeah, he doesn't have the upgrade advantage anymore. And, I mean, he holds again until the next wave comes.
He has one SCV, Wolf. One single SCV. He can only rely on the mules. Scarlet is going into Ultralisks now.
Yeah.
And at this point, it becomes a little bit silly. Being down at 26 supply with only one SCV, your opponent is on 3 bases that you know of, and has Hive, Adrenal Glands, +2/+2. There's nothing that he can hope for anymore.
Yeah, I mean, this is the last army that we will see from Ganji.
That's the
GG.
At this point, he knows that this is over. The only chance that he had was moving out with his army and just simply crushing everything that Scarlet had. And seeing the units, he realized this is not going to happen. She has way too much. And this is one of the things that she avoided. It's a trap that some Zerg players will fall into, just throwing too much at their opponent, never following it up with an additional base or attack, and then if the Terran player holds, they will just lose too much over time. But that's a risk that she never took.
Exactly. Ganji got to be, you know, you see him scratch his head there for a moment. He just got blindsided by those mutas. Then he made some really weird choices. And you could see he was struggling with his multitasking against all the harassment. You know, when his SCVs were under fire with the Zerglings, he didn't pull them because he was dealing with the front. He also didn't siege up that one siege tank.
This was a mind game, simple as that. He picked Icarus and he expected to see aggression. It's a map that lends itself to an aggressive Zerg player with Banelings, with Roach pushes.
He even played safe with the siege tank at the front, so
exactly.
he thought.
That's why he built the siege tank, but Scarlet was like, well, I'm not going to do that. I am going to just secure my 2 bases. I will head straight into Mutalisks, the fastest Mutalisks that I can get. Ganji never saw it, and therefore he was completely surprised. He lost too many ACVs, he was pressured, the Banelings roll in.
That's how you play Icarus if your opponent picks the map, you know? You take that Icarus map pick and you make it your map. I mean, you choose the strat.
She mind-gamed him.
Yeah, that was a great response. It was almost as if she knew that she was going to play on Icarus before and already had the strategy in mind. That kind of split the second decision-making, the kind of decision-making you make when you're, all right, I don't want to play on Icarus. It's a tough map for Zerg. I have to do something aggressive. I'm not going to do what he expects, so I'm going to go into a really fast Spire. I like that choice.
It's smart play. You always have to be careful if you go for something like this, that you scout what your opponent is doing, because if Ganji pulls a Keen and there are suddenly 10 Hellions running your way, then you will be in a lot of trouble, not having a Roach one, not having a Spinecrawler or any Banelings. But in this situation, the Overlord spotted nearly everything that Ganji had, so she was in a good position, had those Mutalisks out in time to do the damage that she wanted to do. Was way before Ganji would have expected them with a fast tech into layer. So a very smart play here by Scarlet, and she already takes the second win.
Yeah, Ganji was basically just saying, I want to play super greedy, but I also know that you're probably going to attack me, so I want to make these siege tanks that most Terran players would skip, and he was just like saying, come on, but it was the different kind of attack that he was not expecting.
Things, of course, now get a little bit grim for AZUBU, but still, if the next player takes down Scarlet, that it still gives them the opportunity to come back into the series like really fast.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if the third player also has been taken out by Scarlet, then this would be posing a big problem on AZUBU, because every single player on the Axiom-Acer bench would then be able to prepare for the match already, pick the map to his liking, and that would give them such a massive lead in the series.
Yeah. I think we will see Supernova next. I would expect to see another Terran before they switch things up.
I could see Supernova here, that's definitely true. Yeah, and it's him. We have another Terran player going into the booth, Supernova being the third player for Team AZUBU.
Because, you know, right now they're looking at it saying, well, that was just a bit weird. That was not about Scarlet having utter dominance in this matchup. It was just a great build order that she chose. Really, really smart play. But Supernova was like, all right, well, I can do this. I think I'm going to play it on a different map.
It's going to be interesting to see what Scarlet is going to do against him. Scarlet also a player that has announced, or she has announced just recently, that she has problems with her wrist and is thinking about having a longer break. But from the last time that I interviewed her to this period in time, she said that she actually feels a little bit better. She changed a few things of how she practices and how she positions her hands, so she feels like it doesn't hurt this much anymore, so it's not as bad as it was in the past. But she still holds firm on the idea of taking a break, and I actually think it's a very smart idea.
Yeah, you know, sometimes taking a break can actually be good for you mentally, even though this is obviously a physical thing, the problem with the wrists, but taking a break can be good for you mentally. Yeah. You can kind of clear your head, and it can reinvigorate your passion for the game, because when you take a break, that's when you find out how much you miss the game, you know what I mean?
I really loved the shot that we just had from the Axiom-Acer bench. This is exactly what I was talking about earlier. They know about the third player now, so they are starting to analyze, okay, what is going to happen if Scarlet loses here? Who wants to take the game against Supernova, and which map is going to be picked? So right off the bat, they are looking at this and are making a plan B, just talking about who wants to take this, which matchup are we going for, what kind of map choice do we want to head in. So that's a very, very smart position here, and I really love that everyone is talking about this. I mean, it's not like one person deciding what's going to happen next. All of them just giving some input and thinking about what's best for the team.
Exactly. And that's how it goes for this type of strategy, or rather this type of format. That's the type of strategy you have to think about. Belshear Vestige is Supernova's map pick. Relatively easy third to take if you have that set up and walled. And, you know, Scarlet could be aggressive again. We'll find out.
Yeah, we are going to find out right now, heading into game number 3 here at the GSTL match between Axiom-Acer and AZUBU. Scarlet up against Supernova, brought to you by Cullen Wolf.